Good evening, faithful viewers. Tonight's news will be focusing on the government, everyone's favorite subject.
I love the government.
Anyways, I'm just a bill. Yeah, or more commonly known as a potential law. Ref, I actually submitted a bill, and believe it or not, it didn't get passed.
What was it?
It was a bill proposing for my mom to make edible food. Conveniently, it actually got a majority vote in the House, but those no-life senators shot it down. I heard one of the senators tried to pull a filibuster on me and talk to slow everything down.
Let me guess. Was it your mom?
Most likely. They eventually reached a cloture, and 2/3 of the Senate chose to end the filibuster. On another note, we had our census 3 years ago. I'm trying to stand against the government, so I've yet to fill out that information.
All that means is that you affected how many reps we get.
Oh, I'm sure that we lost out on a rep because of me. There's approximately a rep per 747,000 people.
Guess what? I'm receiving information that we were off 16 reps by one person. Thanks, Luke.
Apparently, President Biden vetoed the ban on chocolate chip ice cream, but Congress really had it out for him today, and they override it with 2/3 votes. Wait. I'm receiving information that we found the most important source of the government's power. Apparently, something called the Commerce Powers. It allows the government to regulate all forms of the government's power. You know something crazy?
What?
Standing committees are permanent. Imagine if you get stuck with one you hate and you have to work on it forever.
Yeah.
For some odd reason, I am facing impeachment from the U.S. Congress. I've secretly been the president all this time, and Congress isn't happy with my illegal activities. Okay. So I'm getting impeached over what you'd say is a misdemeanor. I'd be the 4th president to be impeached, along with Andrew Jackson, Bill Clinton, and, of course, Donald Trump. So to avoid this, I'm going to resign as president. I, Luke Evelyn Wise, resign as the U.S. president. I was also called for gerrymandering, which drew districts in my favor.
Every state is completely red.
They're calling it wisdomandering now, so while I go wallow in my shame, I pass the spotlight to Rep.
Where are you going? Breaking news! The U.S. versus Baby Sean case is currently underway. As we all know, the Bill of Rights was a document written by our founding fathers to protect both the civil rights and liberties of the U.S. citizens. Civil liberties are the basic freedoms to think, act, and participate in the government, and the civil rights are rights that are fair and equal to all of us. These are the main discussions of the U.S. versus Baby Sean case, because the U.S. population is attempting to have Baby Sean music banned from ever being played ever. The inside of the court was filled with spectators because they have the right to public trials. Now, due to Tron's music being so incredibly mid, I mean, seriously, he doesn't have the funds to get a lawyer. So under the 6th Amendment, he is granted a lawyer. The man who is his lawyer, the man who sang Chocolate Rain, as we all know, the famous lawyer who actually defended Ben Shapiro. On the U.S. side are Ben Shapiro and Jack Harlow, as I mentioned earlier. They are followed by the attorney, Kid President. Now, although the 7th Amendment requires the right to trial by jury, Tron has decided it would be his best advantage to have a trial without a jury because that is what freed up Unky. Free Unky.
Who's Unky?
Never mind. Tron is defending his case by stating his music is protected under the First Amendment because it, protects the freedom of speech and press, and music is a form of press. However, the U.S. is considering that statement by saying they can limit his rights because he's knowingly doing harm to millions of people's eardrums, as of mine. And I gotta turn this off. I mean, seriously, it's a mess. I mean,
Truly.
Horrible. This case is really something I've never seen before. We've seen cases of civil rights and liberties, but never ever seen a case of someone being so mid. What do you think about this, Peter?
Well, I can really go both ways. See, I'm a diehard Tron.
Yeah.
Tron and I go way back.
Really?
I have him on my phone. But it's just on the other hand,
I'm getting word. I just heard that Baby Tron has won his case by a technicality. According to our sources, Tron was never read his Miranda rights when arrested.
Oh!
So he was able to just go on free, and they weren't allowed to use any of the evidence they used when he was talking. However, they don't want to do that because, quote, we would have to re-listen to all of his whack-ass music, and I ain't trying to do all that. Well, now that that's over, what do you think about this, Peter?
So, yeah.
Hold that thought.
Blah 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 blah.
I just got reports that Baby Tron is now being arrested for firing a gun in public.
Hey, Roy, this guy,
I think this calls for a celebration.
Bang! Bang!
You can't do that! You're going to jail! No, you're firing a gun in a public area. That's endangering the people. But I'm Baby Tron. It don't matter, but I'm Baby Tron.
Now, of course, back to more news. A Florida woman was forced to quarter troops. As you know, quartering troops is banned under the Third Amendment. And last Sunday, it was discovered that President Biden had secretly been forcing the woman to house troops inside of her house for the war effort. This was discovered by a passing officer of the Florida Police Department, and he happened to walk by her house and saw a man in full uniform. And so he asked her about it. He went to his house. He went to her house and said, what is happening here? And then that's when he saw about five soldiers all held up in her house. Now, of course, usually an officer would need a warrant to search the property, which is what she told the officer. You can't search his house. But it was in plain view, so the officer could do what he wanted. The next day, Mr. Biden was questioned for why he did this, and he responded by saying, quote, "Oops, I forgot that was an amendment." Joe was going to go to jail, but he gave himself a pardon, which forgives him of the crime he committed.
Ooh! He's got it good.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. And anyway, that wraps up our time here, so I pass the stage on to Peter now, as I don't even know what's your job here?
I do the news.
Can we fire him? Can we get him out of here, please?
Next up on my segment. Stay tuned. Welcome to this segment of Rapid Fire News. This morning's edition of Super Official Government News. Rapid Fire. While there are a ton of news stories to cover, we're going to try to get through just as much as we can before my mom yells at me to get off of the air and do my homework.
Well then, we don't have a lot of time, so get to it already.
Jeez, you don't be so rude about it. Anyways, we'll head down to sunny South Carolina as a woman in the U.S. government claims that the U.S. government has infringed her rights. She claims that the government is making her clean all of her pet poo, which she deems as unconstitutional. And she seems that it infringes the 9th Amendment and seeks compensation for this.
How does someone even get a punishment like that?
Well, apparently she was stalking her ex. A Texas congressman proposed a bill to allow himself, yes, himself, to do whatever he wants. Now, whenever. Now, they seem to be letting anyone into Congress, as only members of Congress are allowed to introduce bills. No markups to the bill have been added yet. Supposedly, it will probably be thrown out here shortly. The 435 representatives in the House and the 100 in the Senate both need a majority vote to pass that. However, if by some miracle the president gives his stamp of approval, Congressman Phil McNutt will have...
Hey man, this is news.
I can't laugh at that. They're gonna get mad at me.
We're already mad at you. All right, we pay you to be a news anchor. Come on,
No,
dude.
restart.